The Seattle Mariners offense remains hot, but can they maintain this throughout an entire season? Let's talk about it. So that is right, guys. With a win this past weekend in the series versus the Texas Rangers, Seattle Mariners have now won 8 consecutive series, which, let's be real, starting off this year and the way they look to start the first 12 games of the season, nobody really thought we would be at this point. They are currently 20-13, being 2 games up on the Sacramento A's. That being said, I don't want to talk too much about the divisional standings because, as we know, they were up 10 games last year way later into the season and still ended up missing. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to try to be as positive as we can in today's video because the Seattle Mariners offense is on another level. So yes, to start the season, as we all know, the biggest question for us Mariners fans was this offense going to do anything? We basically brought back the same exact team from the 2024 season, and we all know how that played out in terms of an offensive perspective, almost breaking major league records for strikeout percentages. But once we find out that Kevin Seitzer and Edgar Martinez are both going to be the 2 main hitting coaches on this squad, we were a little bit more optimistic, but we didn't know really if they were going to get to this level. Because as it currently stands, only 3 teams in Major League Baseball are better offensively from an F-WAR perspective than the Seattle Mariners, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers, Chicago Cubs, and New York Yankees. Not bad teams to be associated with. The Mariners have a 128 WRC plus as a team, which is second in Major League Baseball, only behind the New York Yankees. The Mariners are middle of the pack when it comes to K percentage this year, which honestly beats any high percentage that they had last year. They were absolutely horrendous from a strikeout percentage last year, and right now they are dead middle of the pack at number 15 in terms of the lowest K percentage. But on the flip side of that, they have the highest walk percentage in Major League Baseball at an 11.1%. They are second in on-base percentage and 5th in slugging percentage, which are just, I can't believe this offense is really top 5 in most major categories from an offensive perspective, knowing what we knew coming into the season, as well as you're missing some of your most important guys, such as Victor Robles, who has not played for now 8 consecutive series, and the Seattle Mariners have won 8 consecutive series. So they are doing with arguably a guy that us as Mariner fans figured would have the highest batting average on the team after 2025 is over, which makes it even that much more impressive. You're missing guys like Luke Raley, who have a major impact on this offense, especially from a power perspective, and the Seattle Mariners are still putting up absolutely ridiculous numbers. And again, I'm going to say this one more time, that is without Julio Rodriguez, aka the Seattle Mariners star player, not even hitting his full stride in the 2025 season as of now. He only has a 209 batting average while still putting up a 1.1 F-WAR currently and a 106 WRC plus, which, like I said before, not terrible numbers, but he still has yet to hit that full stride. And going back to the main question that I asked, and that is, are the Seattle Mariners going to be able to maintain this for an entire season? And I think to really answer that question, you have to go back to when Dan Wilson and Edgar Martinez were hired in the first place. Because I know it had been a little bit of a conversation, at least with some people that I talked to on X, about, whether the Seattle Mariners last month of the season last year was a fluke, or they were going to bring that and translate that over to the 2025 season. Now, I know most of you know what I'm referring to when it comes to that last month of the season last year, but to give you a better sense, when it comes to F-WAR, similar to this year where I said the Seattle Mariners were ranked 4th, they were also ranked 4th in F-WAR in the last month and a week of the season last year, where they had an 8.6 F-WAR, and the only teams better were the Diamondbacks, the Cubs, and the Dodgers. But again, very similarly, they had a 125 WRC plus, which was 3rd in Major League Baseball to close out the year last year. And that's right, you guessed it, they had a middle of the pack K percentage, as well as the 2nd best walk rate in baseball during that stretch. So to answer my own question, yes, I do believe that Seattle Mariners offense can remain at least top 10 throughout an entire season. I do not think what they are doing currently is a fluke. Honestly, what is the fluke during this entire season is the pitching staff kind of being a little bit off. They're not as dominant as they have been in the past, and that's fine. You're missing guys like Logan Gilbert. Bryce Miller really hasn't found his stride. George Kirby obviously has not pitched a single inning for the Mariners this year. But I do think, honestly, the biggest fluke there is the pitching staff. But the Mariners offense, it's not a fluke, guys. We saw the last month, 5 weeks of the season last year where Dan Wilson came in, Edgar Martinez came in, and they really started to figure it out. Now you add Kevin Seitzer to that mix, who, as we know, has a great track record as a hitting coach. And this is the result that you're going to get. Will somebody like Jorge Polanco, who's having an absolutely monster year, which I will be doing a video on him later this week, will he probably cool off a little bit at some point? Probably. He will probably most likely not hit 380 all year. If he does, fantastic, and I don't want to hate on him because he's obviously being an absolute stud. Will he be able to maintain that? I don't know. Kind of a big question mark. But I do think that this offense can absolutely maintain the pace that they're on. You have guys in the bottom of your lineup like Leo Rivas. Shout out Leo Rivas, who's absolutely having a great year and really utilizing his playing time when he gets it. He's hitting over 300. He's gotten on base more than half of his at-bats. You have guys like that are just performing and clearly just they all are working together in terms of reaching that big goal. And the big goal is, as we know as Mariner fans, reach the playoffs and win. So I really think as long as this team can somewhat stay healthy, as we know we've had struggled with some injuries this year so far, if these guys can stay healthy, stay the course, stay listening to Edgar and Kevin, they're going to be just fine. Again, the last month of the season could have arguably been a fluke, but if you look at those stats and translate them into the 2025 season, the more and more you start to realize that last 5 weeks of the season when Edgar and Dan came in was not a fluke. So please let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and if you guys think that, you know, this top 5 offense is going to be able to be maintained throughout an entire season. Otherwise, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.